Hi, Purpose Partner. Welcome to another episode of Rise to Your Purpose, a personal and spiritual development podcast for female entrepreneurs with a mission. We are your hosts, Brandie and Natalie.
We are founders of Victorious Entrepreneurs Rising, where we guide women to build profitable businesses online through diversifying your income, using kingdom principles in marketing, and operating in a spirit of rest so that you can create kingdom impact.
After this episode, be sure to join our Purpose Partner Facebook community and get your copy of our Rise to Your Purpose devotional so we can continue to serve you as we partner together in our faith and business. Let's dive into today's episode. Welcome to another episode of Rise to Your Purpose. My name is Brandie Thomas. I'm one of the founders, along with my sister Natalie Lawson, of Victorious Entrepreneurs Rising, and we guide women to build profitable businesses online that create kingdom impact, all while operating from a place of rest. So today I'm super excited to have a guest speaker, Allie Porter, with me. Allie is a Christian connector concierge, and I just love what she does and her title. So I can't wait for you guys to meet her. She is the founder of Millionaire Momentum LLC, and her mission is to connect Christian women entrepreneurs with resources, tools, platforms, and people that will enhance their life, build their kingdom business, all while keeping God as their CEO. So super exciting to have Allie on here today. So Allie, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited.
Thank you. And I just love, I definitely want to get into your Christian connector concierge, because I just think that's I've never met anybody who actually does this. Like you don't have a product, you don't necessarily, you're literally just a networking, connecting people. And I'm just like, why didn't I think of that? Second part of me is I'm so glad you're here, because I've made so many great connections through you connecting with other people already. So you're definitely needed in the marketplace, and I'm just excited to introduce you to our audience. Is there anything else that I missed that you want to share about yourself before we dive in?
Yeah, I am a mom. I'm a wife and a mom. I have 4 kids, ages 14 to 6, 3 girls and a boy. So that also keeps me super busy. But yeah, other than that, that's what I do.
Awesome. I love it. I know today we're so excited because we're going to be talking to you guys about networking, building relationships really stepping into your divine authority in the marketplace, and actually diving into what does that look like? What are some tangible ways that we can implement that? So we're going to just dive right in. So my first question for you, Allie, is when you talk about stepping into your greatness or stepping into your divine authority, how do we as Christian women in business actually do that? What does that mean? And how do we actually take steps to implement our divine authority?
Well, first of all, I would say remembering whose you are, and realizing that we are literally, sons and daughters, in this case, daughters of a king, right? And being able to really have that be at the center of everything, and really seeing yourself as he sees you gives you that divine authority, because you already have it. It's just, do you actually practice it? Do you feel it? Do you share it? But I would say the other thing is realizing that, number one, you're not ever doing anything by yourself. You're always in co-creation with him, right? And also that with him, anything is possible. And we say that all the time. I even have a ring that says, it's Matthew. Let's see, what was it? Matthew 19:26. It says, with God, all things are possible. So we say that, we know it and everything, but do we actually believe it?
Right.
We actually practice it. And there's one thing to say, yeah, I believe that he can do anything, but then it's another to actually go out and practice working with him,
Yes. Yeah. I know for me, when I was on my journey of really stepping into my divine authority, I like to say claim it, because we have it, but are you actually claiming it, wearing it, putting it on like a jacket? Are you wearing your divine authority, or is it just that old dress in your closet that you never wear? So it's I had to know, to even step into my divine authority, I had to, one, just know God, right? We have to take ownership of our relationship with God
Mhm.
and actually discover him for ourselves, because we can never truly come into partnership with someone we don't actually trust and don't actually have ourselves a relationship with. So for me, like my tangible steps were like, I had to one, just like know God for myself. Like, who are you? What are your characteristics? Like, what is your name? Even like, what are the different titles of God? Like, how do you operate with your people? How do you interact with your people? So like reading the Bible stories. And then it was like, okay, well, who am I to you? So like finding like the Proverbs 31 woman is like my favorite. Psalms 23 is another like
Me too.
great scripture passage
Yeah.
to really just like, this is who God. And Psalms 23 just cracks me up because people read it at the like the graveside, and I'm like, Psalms 23 is one of the most abundant scriptures, like awesome, like I anoint your head with oil, like your cup overflows. And because it's like one line that says, yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. It's like, oh, that's just a graveside scripture. And I'm like, no, like this is God telling us that he's our protector, he's our provider, he's our comforter, like he gives us our identity, he's gonna give us everything we need. And I'm just like, whoa, like that's the importance of why we have to know God for ourselves, so that we can even step into our divine authority. Because if we don't even know who he is, how can we trust that he's going to actually provide for us in our businesses and in our lives? Is there anything else, Allie, around like how do we actually step into our divine authority that you want to touch on?
I just loved everything you said. And I do believe that it is a choice. I believe that we have to choose it. We have to, like you said, claim it. And if we're not willing to claim it, then he can't help us, because he's like, okay, and he's not going to take away our agency. Right. And that's the other thing, is he wants to help us. He wants to give us abundance. Like he wants it for us so much more than we want it for ourselves. But we have to choose it.
Yes.
So
yeah, I love when I work with my clients, like they're like, you have to choose God, you have to choose your identity in him, and then you surrender and receive. And like surrendering is like freedom. But like if you don't know God and you don't know who you are in God, surrendering is scary. But when you know God and you know who you are in him and you know what you're surrendering to, because like on the other side of surrendering, you're actually receiving. It's like actually freeing and exciting. And it's just like, finally I can drop all these like bags that I've been carrying, because I know God's just gonna like take them all, cast them away, and give me what I actually want and need. It's so powerful. So ladies listening, that's why like we want, as a Christian entrepreneurs, like we first and foremost need to know and build that relationship with God, and then know what he says about us. So I know like the world teaches affirmations and like vision boarding and all that stuff, and not to say that that's bad, but when you take God out of that practice, then it's you doing it in your own strength, and it's you making yourself a little mini God, and that's where it just like gets dangerous. That's where like that deception comes in. But when we actually get to do those practices with God, that's when it's like beautiful. There's freedom, there's movement, there's flow there. And
can I say something about that? So, oh my gosh, that like totally resonated with me, because every time people would say like the word like manifestation, for example, it always just kind of was like a little off. Like I was just like, I don't know why this is off. But then I realized like it's manifestation, like man, it's just you trying to manifest whatever. But when you co-create with God, but this is why Satan is so sneaky, because he takes something that's always been right, co-creation, and he twists it and tweaks it so that, you take God out of it, and then there's your counterfeit, which was really hard for me to like actually grasp, because like I have a lot of friends and stuff that are more spiritual versus Christ-centered, and there is a difference. There is a difference. And when I had to draw the line in the sand and say, actually, it's not about me. It's not about me creating something. It's about me working with God's power and with him in co-creation, creating. That is the right way to do it. So that was hard for me to like
separate the two.
Not even separate, but like take a stand for that, because that's not very popular
We're on this. We actually did a whole podcast episode on manifestation and like taking the word back because God created it first, like it's his word. And the world has misused it, like Satan, like you said, Satan comes in, takes it over, makes something beautiful meant for good and makes it like fool's gold, where it's like, it looks shiny and pretty on the outside, but on the inside, it's just death and hollow. There's really nothing to it. When you're manifesting in your own strength, you just end up with frustration, burnout, conflict, death. Like there's nothing there. But if you want to use the word semantics, right? If you want to use the word manifest, when you manifest with God or co-create with God, then you are creating life. Just think about like birth, like birthing a baby is literally the epitome of co-creation with God because like that is like you are literally carrying a life inside of you. You are birthing new life. You are co-creating, but like who really like creates that life? That's like a God-given creation. And you have the honor of feeding that life and stewarding that life and birthing that life. It's just the same with our businesses, right? Like when we partner with God and stewarding this business that he's given us, we're feeding it. We're like doing the work. We're walking obediently and doing the things that we're supposed to do to steward a healthy business. Like creation, life, movement happens versus the opposite side, which I've been on the opposite side of not building my business with Christ, of just being a Christian in business, but not like a kingdom driven entrepreneur. Where I was like frustrated and burnt out because I was doing it all on my own strength. And there is such a difference. And that's where like operating in your divine authority, you finally understand what that looks like and the beauty of that surrender and that partnership.
Yeah, I completely agree. I love it.
Awesome. Okay. So my next question for you, Allie, is how can knowing our identity as a daughter of Christ, as a daughter of the King, contribute to our strategy for network building, for networking and building relationships? Because I think it does look different when we approach networking and building relationships with a kingdom-driven mindset versus a worldly strategy mindset.
Wow. That's so amazing that you would ask this because I just barely did a live on this, like literally like right before I hopped on here. Because that is literally what has happened in the last week for me. When I finally embraced, I've been a Christian my whole life. I'm very faith-based and everything, but my business and my faith, even though I would pray for my business and stuff, it wasn't like this. It wasn't like this. It was always separate. And so I was telling you this before we started recording, but I hated reaching out to people. Like I hated it with a passion, so much so that I would start, building teams or whatever. And then I would just stop. I was just like, I can't do this. This is too much. It's too much. I hate like that. Like it's too many people, too many things. I just don't. But what shifted in me, and it literally just happened like last week, which is crazy to me, that you can have a shift so drastic in such a short amount of time. When you network and when you connect with people as a kingdom entrepreneur, as being a daughter of God and coming at it from a Christ-centered perspective, you realize that all these people that you're reaching out to, all these people that you're connecting with are people. They're people just like you, and they need love. They need care. They need whatever they need. And it's not your job to fix their problems. It's not your job to give them everything you have, but it is your responsibility to care and to spend time with them. And again, it's not hours and hours of time, but it's a few minutes here and there as you're networking and growing. And when I realized how important relationships are in the kingdom, right? Because we have to have our relationship with God first, and then everything stems out from there with our families, our spouses, our kids, our friends, our clients, our customers. All of it stems out from your relationship with God. So when you can be in a relationship with God, he will teach you how to actually have a healthy relationship. And I was like, hey, not only that, but a relationship with yourself as well. Like he will be able to pour into you. And so when I have God's word on me, when I am in I don't know exactly how to describe it, but when I'm in that like Christ-centered space where I just want to love people unconditionally, without judgment, without expecting anything in return,
Right.
because so often when we go out and network, what are we doing? We're like, hey, I'm going to go network and I'm going to try and get people into my business, right?
Yeah.
People can feel that. They can feel that, and it feels icky and it feels spammy. And we've heard that before. But the difference is when you're shifting into that Christ-centered space, you're not expecting anything in return. You are just sharing, you're loving, you're kind, and they can feel that difference. And when you do that, it doesn't become a burden anymore. It becomes, I'm going out and sharing the light of Christ. I am going out, whether your business is, because everyone has different businesses. So whatever that is, your coaching program or your product or your service or whatever it is, you are doing it as a service for people. But you're doing it in a loving, kind, generous, unassuming way where you're just trying to be a good friend, a good, person. And so when I was able to finally shift into that mindset, oh my gosh, I cannot wait to do my connections every day. And I have to cut myself off, actually, which I've never had to do before. Like, okay, I have to make 10 connections. I don't really want to do this. This is taking forever, type of a feel. And now I'm like, oh my gosh, I only get to do 12 today. but I also know my boundaries, right? I know, and that's the other thing too. We talked about this. When you're connecting and networking, you can do it all day long, but then what happens to your messenger? It it's so full that you like can't handle it. Right. So the other thing is to make sure that you have boundaries on growing your business. So you have your section, like you have your compartment for, okay, I'm going to spend 2 hours and grow my business right now. And then I'm going to spend the rest of the afternoon with my kids. Right. I'm going to spend the next couple hours, reading the scriptures. I'm going to go talk to my neighbor. I'm going to go work out. I'm going to, and having that balance. I know that kind of went off on a tangent, but I think when people really sit with that and realize that when you're networking, you're growing the kingdom and you're bringing more people in your circle, whether they join your business or not, that doesn't matter. What matters is you're going out and you're loving them unconditionally like Christ did, and they are going to feel that.
Yes. Yes.
So, yeah.
Oh my gosh, Allie. Yes. Like I've been praying about over my business and like different shifts that God's taken me on. And he's just like the story of Peter so Jesus has come back to raise from the dead, and he is like, hey guys, fish on the other side of the boat. And they catch all the fish. They come in and they're like, oh, hey, Jesus, great to see you again. I'm like, this is the new Brandie translation.
I like it.
And he's like, Peter, do you love me? And he's like, yes. He's like, feed my sheep. He's like, Peter, do you love me? I'm like, yes. And he's like, love my people, feed my people, love my sheep. And I just feel like God's been impressing that on my spirit of just like, stop worrying about your next client. Stop worrying about like your business. I will take care of the right people will come to you. Just go love my people, and the right person will like connect with you and want what you have to offer. Just love them, encourage them, pray for them, be that salt and light. And I know Allie and I were in Go Power Alliance, and we had Anne
Byler.
I was like, I don't know. Anne from Auntie Anne's Pretzels. She's like, salt, being the salt of light doesn't talk. Like salt adds flavor, and light what'd you say, like brings light, exposes things, or like brings light into the darkness. And I was like, oh, that's genius. Like
bringing darkness into light. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's like, we just need to shine like a loving light on people and bring flavor into their world where like there's so much just negativity out there. And so how can we be that salt and light in our businesses? And like you said, like grow the kingdom, because that's really what it is, right? It's like our businesses are just a vessel for us to talk about Jesus, or like share the light of Jesus if you don't necessarily talk about him, but you can still exemplify him in your actions, in your integrity, in the way you show up and interact with your customers, your clients, the people you're networking with. And people will see a difference in a worldly strategy who's just out for their own gain versus a kingdom-minded strategy where it's about the person. It's about service. It's about sacrificing my needs for like this person's, like washing their feet.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. Oh my gosh, I love that. And I love, so here's the other cool thing that just came to me, that going back to what we were saying earlier about receiving.
Mm-hmm.
So often it gets so hard for people to receive. How do I want to say this? Christ was really good at receiving.
Mm-hmm.
Right? He was really good at allowing other people to do things for him. Like, but on the, like, clothe him, not clothe him necessarily. Well, yeah, probably clothe him, feed him. He actually just went from house to house and
Mm-hmm.
place to place and just asked for help, from other people. But then he washed the apostles' feet, right? And he healed and he did all of these things. And if we just think about like how he showed up and we duplicate that, right? We're all about duplication, right? Like when you're building a business, if you can just exemplify that and not only be able to be that light to somebody, but also if they're a light to you, be able to receive that.
Mm-hmm.
That is where the true partnership happens. That's where you make the true connections, when you're willing to not just, I have this for you, I have this offer, I have whatever. But and I'm not saying necessarily that you have to purchase from each other. I'm just saying in general, like the relationship, being able to be a good receiver as well as a good giver.
Mm-hmm.
Because I like sucked at receiving, like so bad, but I was really good at giving. But I couldn't on the other end. But Christ would give and receive both.
Mm-hmm.
And when you can do that in your business, when you can be a great giver, which most of entrepreneurs are great givers, because they're like, here, take my free thing, take my this, here's my offer, here's my program, here's my whatever. We're good at like giving and offering. But when we can receive on the other end, whether it be through just being a good friend, like, and allowing them to pour into us, whether it's, I don't know. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yes.
I just love
that.
it.
I think that is such a good point too, of just like, it's a give and receive, or give and take, if you want to use that terminology, but it's a relationship. You're literally networking and building a relationship with people. And so one of the ways that you went blurry there for a minute.
I'm like blurry. Okay.
Moving around.
There we go.
For those of you watching, if we stream this live, like her camera just went out for those of you listening. Okay, what was I saying?
You're talking about giving and receiving.
Yes, I had a really good thought about that. Building a relationship and being curious. So like tangibly implementing this into our businesses, right? And like the messenger conversation we were having, is like being curious about the person. So trying to find out their pain points, trying to find out like, what are they struggling with? What is going on in their life and business? Asking questions that allow you to dig into who they are and get to actually know them. And then, yes, if the opportunity arises where you can serve them with your product and or service, great. Like you have a relationship now. It's not spammy. It's like, oh my gosh, like I have something that can help you so much. And you're doing it from a love instead of I need. And instead of, so it's like coming from a place of love versus a place of lack, of like, I need to get another customer to pay this bill, to blah, 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 versus I want to love this person and I know God's going to provide for me, whether it's this person or whether it's somebody else, but I'm just going to love on this person, be curious about them, build a rapport and relationship. And then when it just like naturally happens. And so I think that's the difference when we're networking and building a relationship versus a worldly strategy, which often like comes from lack, comes from fear, comes from not enough, versus a kingdom strategy where you're already coming fully, you're coming to the conversation, the relationship filled, because God is anointing your head with oil, your cup overflows. And now you're just like able to pour out that love that God's already given you. So I think that's like the difference there. All right, I want to switch the conversation a little bit, if you're okay with it, Allie, and talk about like income.
Sure. Yes.
Everybody's favorite conversation to have, but it definitely ties back into our identity as daughters of the king as Christians, but the income conversation can definitely interfere, or it can contribute with how we produce income as an entrepreneur. And so I want to talk about like some of the pitfalls of our identity as a Christian, where we do come into pitfalls with our income and money, versus what are some good strategies, what are kingdom strategies that we should be implementing and learning from. So I'd love just like what are some thoughts that you have on like the kingdom, on the Christian and money, good and bad.
Yeah. Oh, we could talk about this for like hours.
Yeah.
But I'll try and keep it short. So my thoughts on these, and this is just according to Allie. So, but my thought is, when it comes to money, like growing up, I always wanted to have a lot of money. I wanted to build, but really what I wanted was freedom. I didn't want to have to worry about like how much something cost, or like say I couldn't afford it or whatever. Like I really wanted to just have money, but I didn't really have a purpose for it. I was just like, oh, I just want to just have it, whatever. But when it came to money, so after I left my parents' house and went to college and stuff, I got married, and I started my business. I was like, all right, you have to spend money to make money, right? You know how many times we've heard that?
Yeah.
1,000 million times. And that put me way into debt. And I had this debt that just like sat with me for years and years, to where like it was just strangling me. And I was just like, oh my gosh. And as a Christian, I shouldn't be wealthy because that means that I'm not humble. And I had all those like crazy thoughts in my head, which are not true, by the way. And then I realized, and this was like literally probably about 2 years ago, because I had done business after business after business after business, and some were really successful, but not in alignment with me. And so I had to close doors on some of them that were actually making money. And then other ones just never really got off the ground. And I was like, why is it not like, why do I keep going like this, with money? And what I realized was the pitfalls of being Christian and wealth in general is we think that in order to be humble, or in order to be considered Christ-like, that we are poor, or that we don't want extra money because we just need enough for our needs and then we're good.
Yeah.
Right. But one thing you and I have learned is that is not true. Like God, our natural state of being is abundance.
Yes.
Because we are the children of God, and God is the most high. He is the most wealthy. He is like infinity. Like, so if we are his children, then duh, like do the math here. But what I realized too was that I had to choose it. Again, going back to the claiming, I had to choose that I wanted to be wealthy, and that I wanted to not allow this debt to hang over my head anymore, and actually work to get it paid off. And then also be in abundance instead of lack mentality. And so that's when I created the Millionaire Momentum, because I was not reaching that goal. But what I realized was I also was relying on myself to get there. And God has to do things and has to work within you, and you have to be refined in order for the capacity for you to be able to handle that much wealth to be able to happen. And so that's what he's kind of been doing over the last 14 years with me, is just molding me and guiding me. And he's like, and saying, okay, so he's like, I want to bless you. I want to bless you with $1 million plus, so that you can go bless the world and help. But you can only handle this much, And so that's all we're going to give you right now. So as I've been molded, like slowly over time, my capacity for wealth and abundance, and really believing it and owning it, and actually like receiving it. That was the other thing, is I couldn't receive it either, but it started to expand. And now I'm in that momentum. And so Millionaire Momentum is not just about the financial money, being millionaire, but the feeling that comes along with that, the way in which you carry yourself, the way in which you are, the way you can be. And so that just kind of started to expand. But I had to accept it. I had to learn from it. I had to grow from it. So I just think it's important for people to remember that again, this isn't me trying to make $1 million. It's me being in the mindset, learning the skill set, having the support, and really believing that it is possible, and exciting and good.
Yes, like with God. And like, just to piggyback on what you said, like, Jesus was wealthy. I mean, he was given gold, frankincense, and myrrh as like birth to 2 years old, right? The timeline's a little iffy. He had a treasure, like, so he had so much money in his treasury that Judas was stealing from it, and he only knew about it because of he's Jesus and his spirit, right? So like, he was not, like, when they went to crucify him, they were lotting over his clothes. Like, he was not a beggar by any means. He came from heaven, which was a place of abundance, as you said, and he was always provided for. And so I just like to point that out, because I think a lot of times people are like, oh no, he's just this homeless guy wandering around like with nothing.
Anything but that.
Yes. I mean, he is the epitome of abundance. And people in, I think, the Big C church twist the scripture of like, money is the root of all evil. The love of money is the root of all evil. A kingdom-hearted person with wealth changes the world for good. When kingdom entrepreneurs have wealth, what do you think that they do? They support charities that stop sex trafficking. They build wells in third world countries. They support organizations. Like, there's a charity I love in Indianapolis that supports women in the sex industry, like getting them out of the strip clubs and actually giving them skills in society where you don't have to strip to like make a lot of money, but there's probably good money in the strip club. And so like, contributing to those types of things, or like, there's halfway house, like there's women who've poured their visions of like God-sized dreams, where it's like, I have this vision where I want to build this apartment complex for like people, like almost like a halfway house type thing. That's never going to happen if they don't have the finances in the natural world. So that's why when we partner with God in our faith and our business, we get the super to our natural, and that includes wealth. And wealth is a good thing. And I actually just wrapped up a 3-part series. So go back to the last 3 episodes of this podcast, and it talks about like why wealth in the kingdom is a good thing, how to steward your finances with kingdom strategies, because it is good, but we need to have that heart posture of not asking our money, what can we do with it, but asking God, what can we do with our money? Regardless of whether you have $1 or you have $1 million, your heart posture should be the same.
Well, and it's not even our money. And that's the beauty of it. Like, we're just stewarding it. We're just, I don't even say managing, because that's not the right word. We're stewarding it. We are taking care of it. We are, allowing good to be used with it, but we need to consult with our CEO first, and consult with God and say, what do you want? What do you want me to do with this? How do you want me to bless the world with this?
Yeah. And like, understanding what is your divine appointment or calling, because not everybody needs $1 million to fulfill their calling.
Exactly.
And so again, being alignment, being a partnership, seek first the kingdom of God, and all these things will be added to you. So if we could just continuously seek God in our businesses, in our lives, in our relationships, like, everything will be provided and taken care of in the right way. But so often we try to twist things or do things in our own strength, and that's like where the pitfalls happen. That's when we get out of alignment and get into that brokenness, into the burnout, into the conflict. And so I just want to encourage you with that, because I know I've been on like the struggle money bus. Like, my dad was a financial advisor, so I am so grateful that he had taught us like good money management and stewardship, but there was still like this ceiling I was giving myself. Like, I don't think I'm allowed to like earn this much, because I can earn this much because in society, that's an acceptable amount for me to make. But if I go above that, then I'm a greedy Christian or I'm a bad person. Like all of these like twisted beliefs. And God is like showing me like that is a lie from the pit of hell. And like that is not who I created you to be. And I put a vision in your heart, and I need you to trust me in this and walk obediently and just leave I love the acronym HER, and this is from the podcast Church for Entrepreneurs. If you haven't listened to Ollie, great, it's a great podcast. But he had the acronym HER, hear God, execute, so like walk in obedience on what he's calling you to do, and then rest that he's the God of victory and the God of outcome. Like I really have two action steps, right? Is like just listen, and then we actually do something, and then we rest. So like literally the bookends of our obedience is really just like being still.
I love that. I love that. That is so profound. And I loved how you were talking about it just made me think with the whole conversation, because there's so many things, but I know we can't like touch on everything. But the thing that I find fascinating is that when we stay, so like it's the hardest when you are getting started with something, right? But when you're in the momentum, it's easier. And so when you start out with your relationship with God, or if you're in like that stuck place, it's going to feel hard in the beginning because you're not used to it, because it's something unfamiliar, and or you're just going to beat yourself up because you did something and fell off the wagon or whatever it is, right? Specifically, I'm talking money though, because, sometimes we spend money on stuff we shouldn't or whatever, or we get into debt or whatever the thing is, or we're not earning the amount that we want. But when we can get into momentum, that momentum then speeds up faster and faster and faster. And so the visualization, when you were talking about the ceiling, because I loved that you pointed that out, because that's another pitfall, huge, like where we're just like, okay, well, we can only make this much. But when you're in momentum, I like picture like a snowball, or like a I don't know, just like spinning something. And it's in momentum, and it can break that glass ceiling that we put on ourselves, but if we're just sort of kind of moving, if we're not, because like you said, we have to be in rest as well. But the momentum isn't us doing this action and like being like Sonic, the hedgehog, and like running. It's like we're here, he is using us as an instrument, and it's his power that's going like this, right? And then that's when the breakthroughs can happen. I don't know. That's just a vision or the visual that came into my head.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love that. That makes so much sense. Yes. Allie, thank you so much for having this conversation with me. I think so many people are going to be blessed by this conversation. So feel free, guys, to follow us on Instagram, Facebook. Allie, where can people find you if they want to contribute to the conversation or ask you questions?
Sure. Super easy. It's askallieporter.com. So AskAllyPorter.com. And I have a networking event that I do twice a month. So just come, enjoy, meet me, meet other amazing Christian women entrepreneurs. Brandie was there. She was actually a guest speaker there at the event. So come.
It was awesome. It's like speed dating for the networking, for the entrepreneur.
For the Christian women entrepreneur.
Yes. Yep. So good.
Yep.
All right, Allie, thank you so much for your time today. And thank you everybody for listening. Have an awesome day.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. We would love to hear from you. So please share your takeaways by tagging @LiveVictorious over on Instagram and leave a review.
This will help us get more visibility and reach more women like you for the kingdom. We appreciate you and are praying for you as you shine your light in the business world and rise to your purpose.